BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Black Box Mid 88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. All right, and welcome to our Zodiac Killer Q&A session. At least once a month on this channel, I'm hoping to read off your questions and comments and we can have a discussion about everything associated with the Zodiac Killer and what you guys have been sharing in the comments section. So sometimes it turns into a two-part segment because you guys just leave so many excellent things, and I think we should jump right in. And our first comment about the Zodiac Killer comes to us from Christy Taylor, who says, I am very curious as to why almost every name of almost every suspect either has 12 or 13 letters in the names. The cipher My Name Is only has 13 characters. Ross Sullivan has 12 letters, Lawrence Kane 12 letters, Robert Linkletter 14 letters, and Arthur Lee Allen 14 letters. Although I should say that she spelled his name L-E-E for Lee, and Arthur Lee Allen would have written it L-E-I-G-H. And Arthur Lee Allen famously had 16 letters in his name. And if you look actually not at the Z13, but at the final line of the 408 cipher, there's the mash of uncoded text or undeciphered text, if you will. That has 18 letters. So Tony Polito has written a lengthy explanation about how he believes that it can be uncoded and reveal Mr. Arthur Lee Allen with 18 letters. But I should say that there are some suspects out there that have 13 letters in their name. Earl Van Best Jr., for example, Edward Edwards, and once again, with both Ed Edwards and Earl Van Best Jr., they wrote their names in multiple different ways. They didn't always write it out like that. So, but there are suspects out there that do have 13 letters in their names. It's something that does come up very frequently, but I would say that perhaps just 12, 13, 14 letters, perhaps that's a normal amount of letters that somebody would have in their name. So that's just one observation there. But thank you all the same for that comment. And our next one is going to be coming to us from Reggie's Card Collection that says, I really hope there is an Officer Richard Hoffman episode in the near future. Many say there is a high possibility that the Zodiac Killer was in law enforcement. Many also predict that the Zodiac Killer personally knew Darlene Ferrin. There have been rumors that the first officer on the scene at Blue Rock Springs, Richard Hoffman, maybe dated Darlene Ferrin at one time, along with another Vallejo police officer, and they got into a fist fight about it. Mike Mageau said in an interview that Darlene was being followed by a Richard. I think that this thing about how Darlene Ferrin said the name Richard at Blue Rock Springs, I'm a little bit skeptical about that, and that's all I can say. I'm just skeptical. I don't feel 100% convinced that that exchange of words actually happened. The way I understand it is that prior to being shot, somebody addressed Darlene Ferrin by her nickname D. That's just what he said, D, and she said the name Richard. But I am rather skeptical of those events. But as for a future Richard Hoffman episode, yes, we are going to do one of those. And if you're listening to this live, our final segment on Robert Linkletter as a Zodiac Killer suspect will be coming out tomorrow. So you can always like and subscribe if you want to follow along with these discussions. And the Robert Linkletter thing was something that wasn't meant to have turned into a multi-part series. I just thought that there were multiple ways of exploring the subject, and it needed to be covered in different segments, because the second one in our Robert Linkletter series is called The Suicide of Diane Linkletter, talking about his sister, and that is formulated in a way that possibly Diane Linkletter committed suicide because she knew her brother was the Zodiac Killer. She suspected him of being the Zodiac Killer. She may have figured some things out because of material that had been published in the paper, or perhaps she knew the whole time and he coerced her into suicide. That is the theory that the internet is really going with now. But I should say one thing about that, because I think that this is a good time to bring it up during a Q&A session, and that is that it really appears that certain suspects become popular on the internet for a little while. And I mentioned recently that Earl Van Best had another swing, and a lot of people were saying things about Earl Van Best, even leaving comments on these uploads here on BBOR, saying that you need to re-examine Earl Van Best. There was kind of a wave of that. Earlier this year, a lot of people were talking about Xenophon Anthony being a Zodiac Killer suspect, and I think that's partially because Kelly Marshall put out the documentary Zodiac, Rush to Editor, or it's about her work. I mean, you're going to talk about director, producer, and such. I mean, other people are involved. But I would say about that is that people have now moved on to Robert Linkletter, and I'm noticing this on different pages and different forums, and it just seems like some suspects are becoming popular for a while, and that people are then moving on, and they're really just losing a lot of traction. Don Harden was a big one during the summer. So many people requested an upload on Don Harden, and I did one, and I really have to tell you, if Don Harden had anything to do with this other than being the person who solved the 408 cipher, and it's not only Don Harden, but also Don Harden and his wife, I would be very, very surprised about that. But I was really looking forward to this Q&A session because I wanted to talk about Xenophon Anthony as a Zodiac killer suspect, because not only have we done our Xenophon Anthony upload, but we also did one on Shel Cavale, and those two are perhaps linked a little bit in their zodiac, in their zodiology, if you will, for lack of a better term. And I say this because there's this theory out there that Xenophon Anthony and Shel Cavale were competing businessmen, and they got into some type of feud. And the reason why there's a message written on the car door at Lake Berryessa after the stabbing of Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard was because it was either Shel Cavale's trademark as a car importer, writing his name on a car door, which was apparently something that he did, or Shel Cavale was, or that Xenophon Anthony was the person who committed the Lake Berryessa stabbing, and he was mocking Shel Cavale. You know, he's stealing his signature move in terms of mocking him all the same. But I would like to go to one comment that we had here on our upload about Xenophon Anthony that came to us from Drew Beeson, when he said that the biggest thing against Xenophon Anthony being the Zodiac killer is that he was a tall, skinny individual. And Drew said something very similar on his show, the Zodcast. And I at first didn't want to accept that. I was like, is that really enough just to say that he should be eliminated because of that alone? But the material that Drew shared on the Zodcast was that, I mean, if you look at many different photos of him, you can see that he is a very tall, lanky, skinny individual. So I did just what Drew recommended. I got on Google Images and I just went through page after page of photos of Xenophon Anthony, like maybe 9 different pages looking at the images that were provided. And it really appears that, yes, indeed. I mean, he's a tall, lanky, skinny individual. And wouldn't that have come up more frequently in the witness descriptions, especially what they say at Lake Berryessa when they're talking about someone who is fat, barrel-chested, they can see his fat belly, and that just doesn't seem like this tall, skinny individual. And bear in mind that we are probably dealing with a perpetrator somewhere in the vicinity of 5'9" to 6 feet tall, and that's a big range. I mean, like that height range is very big for a person. I mean, to notice 4 or 5 inches on somebody's height. So, I mean, I really think that the stabber at Lake Berryessa, I could say as described by Cecilia Ann Shepard prior to her passing away, was around 5'10" to 6 feet tall. So then we wouldn't really want someone who is extremely tall or extremely short in that vicinity. So people who have very tall, skinny suspects will have some difficult times. And to continue with the discussions about Xenophon Anthony, we had a comment that came to us from Daniel Webster, who says, Xenophon Anthony was a real man. And I'm sure he's saying this because at the beginning of this one, I said, someone first recommended that I do an upload on Xenophon Anthony, and they said, hey, what do you think about Xenophon Anthony? And I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't even know what a Xenophon Anthony is. I said that to begin the episode, so I'm sure that's what Daniel's referring to. He was briefly questioned and then let go, even though an 8-year-old boy positively identified him at the Paul Stein crime scene. Okay, here's something that we should say. When I first heard about this, I thought that this 8-year-old boy saw Xenophon Anthony as the person exiting Paul Stein's cab. October 11th, 1969, the final confirmed Zodiac killer incident. I thought that this 8-year-old boy saw Xenophon Anthony moving stuff around in Paul Stein's cab, shifting the body, as well as exiting. However, it is my understanding now that this 8-year-old boy simply saw Xenophon Anthony in the vicinity of the taxi cab, not touching the taxi cab, not moving Paul Stein's body, not doing anything near the taxi cab. He was seen walking in the area. Someone recognized him because why? Xenophon Anthony lived 15 minutes away from the incident in Presidio Heights. So that tells me that you saw some guy walking around in the neighborhood where he lived or very close to his home, that is not enough. That is insufficient. And then I just have to go back to the Kelly Marshall theory that she found Xenophon Anthony's name in the 340 cipher. I think it's an excellent attempt. I think it's a very, very strong attempt, but I really don't believe that even points to Xenophon Anthony, and it was most likely that he was not the Zodiac killer. Now, I would like to go on to our next comment here because for the first time, I will read off something that we had on Instagram. We've had a couple comments come in on the Instagram uploads, BlackBoxNed88 on Instagram, that bonus podcast that I talk about. And the first one says that the first one that we should say is from GeoSpurg01 that says, probably nothing, but I just got goosebumps while looking at resorts in Lake Tahoe, and I came across a Deerfield Lodge. After some quick research, I found that number one, it's only 50 years old. Number two, it's a minute's walk away from where Donna last lived and worked. And then number three, plenty of pines to peek through. Always wondered why the Zodiac chose Deer Lodge to say he escaped from. Maybe it was just familiar. Keep up the good work. Great shows. Hey, thank you so much for dropping something on the Instagram page, by the way. And, I mean, there could be a few motivations about why the perpetrator at Lake Berryessa said he escaped from Deer Lodge prison. If I had to make a ruling right now, I would say that that this person who committed the Lake Berryessa stabbing was not actually from Deer Lodge prison. I don't entertain the Donald Lee Booyock theory that the Montana Deer Lodge connection actually took place, or Ed Edwards as well is also somebody that is connected to the Deer Lodge prison in Montana. I was quite surprised when I found out that Deer Lodge was a real prison, so I was like, well, then Brian Hartnell must have really heard this correctly. But once again, if you want to follow along with the Zodcast hosted by Drew Beeson, that's a great show. And he even pointed out on that one, it's the first time I've heard this, that Brian Hartnell wasn't exactly sure about the name that he heard, about the prison name that he heard in the conversation with the Zodiac killer, and that the one of the people that was talking to him even suggested it, and he said, yeah, I think that's it, something to that effect. But so please visit the Zodcast on Drew Beeson's channel for a more well-rounded and clearer explanation of that. But what I would say is about the transcripts. And we did a transcript reading on this channel of the Lake Berryessa conversation between Brian Hartnell and the Zodiac killer. And there are a few lines in there from Cecilia and Shepard. And I was quite impressed that they were able to have this. And I was even saying some very lighthearted things about a certain individual named Michael Butterfield in ZodiacKillerFacts.com once. I was like, oh, it's so nice on ZodiacKillerFacts.com. They have all these documents. Yeah, some things about that have definitely changed in terms of my outlook on the subject. And one of the reasons why is even David Fincher said in the commentary for the film Zodiac that there are certain things in that transcript that are not exactly accurate, or that Brian Hartnell even disputed, that it really isn't 100% in Brian Hartnell's words. Certain things have been messed around because he talked about this with Brian Hartnell prior to shooting the film Zodiac, and that the transcript is not as reliable as it seems. But I said we had another comment that came into the Instagram page, and this is from WheelSlim1515. I'm glad I get to see what you look like after listening to your YouTube channel for months, and I've often wondered, so awesome to see your facial expressions, that's talking about that bonus podcast, and so many things I can relate to when you share your thoughts. So cool, and thanks for sharing with people. I've also mentioned the judgment based on book cover topics in my writing of thoughts. You speak so well. I'm in awe and fascination at the same time. I absolutely love the way that these portals or pathways to be able to share our thoughts and communicate over distance. Hey, Slim, thank you so much for saying that, those kind words on Instagram. And then once again, BlackBoxNed88 on Instagram if you'd like to follow along with the bonus podcast as well as some other material. But what I would want to do now is to do something that I was kind of trying to stay away from. Maybe you guys have seen the channel called Infographics or the Infographics Show, and they have a couple uploads out on the Zodiac Killer. And I thought that maybe at one point I would do a response to one, or because they have this one video called Why the Zodiac Killer Was Never Found. They have another one called Do We Finally Know Who the Zodiac Killer Is? And they even have one called The Zodiac Serial Killer, How Did He Evade the Police? And I thought about doing a response to some of this stuff, but maybe we could do that in the future. But the thing that I would just say is that they asked a question at the end of their upload why the Zodiac Killer was never caught. And that question was, what do you think was the biggest issue in preventing the capture of the Zodiac Killer? That was what they said to conclude their episode. So I think that that is a very good starting point. And there's one more point that I would like to say from this infographics show episode that we will say right after that. But what do you think was the biggest issue in preventing the capture of the Zodiac Killer? And they lay out some possibilities in their episode. And one of them that I thought in the past was, I talk a lot about the group murder theory. I don't endorse it because I'm not 100% sold on it, but I did think about that a lot in 2019, that people were looking for a single person when it could have been a group. I also really looked at the possibility of perhaps the Zodiac Killer passed away shortly after 1971 or thereabouts, maybe even after 1974, 1978. And then that is another reason why the Zodiac was never captured, because the police would have been looking for a dead man, as well as investigators. But they brought up something that I think I've moved on to here in this year, 2020, and that is that the mission was accomplished. They were the ones who used that phrase. The Zodiac Killer accomplished his mission, because I was quite shocked when I learned that the Reign of Terror launched by the Zodiac Killer in terms of the canonical crimes only took place from 1968 to 1969. It's less than 12 months. It's December of 68 to October of 69. And it's almost as if somebody was trying to commit these murders within a 12-month time span. And that it's like, as we said, about arranging chapters in a book, creating a story, almost like creating a 4-act play, something like The Mikado. And I think I go down that pathway. So if you want to say mission accomplished, that is perhaps another reason why the Zodiac Killer was never caught, or why do I believe the Zodiac Killer was never caught? And can I throw this challenge question over to you? Totally stealing it, but this is a Q&A session. Yes, stealing this from the infographics show, so I can plug them one more time, although I think they're big enough. What do you think was the biggest issue in preventing the capture of the Zodiac Killer? I would like to ask you guys that, and you can weigh in the comments section. Not stealing. Let's say that we are borrowing. The other thing I would say about this video here from the infographics show is that they entertain the group murder theory. During this, they're providing that as an explanation. They're saying that one of the possibilities about why this mystery was not solved is that these crimes were committed by multiple people. Now, they make no mention of the hoax theory, which is a variant of the multiple killers possibility, about how different people committed these crimes and one person wrote letters taking credit for them and mailed in the ciphers as well, making everybody think that this is one person, but in reality, it was a disconnected array of individuals. That's the hoax theory. They make no mention of that, but I thought that it was rather interesting to hear a famous publication like Infographics even talking about the group murder theory at all, because you would have to go through some far-off corners of the internet to really look for that stuff several years ago. And definitely the mainstream publications were really zoning in on how that this had to have been a single person. And I mentioned in the past that I was even quite disappointed when people would put out these psychological profiles of the Zodiac Killer, and they would insist that it had to have been one person. And when I say insist, they don't even look at the possibility. Now, could this have been two people? And people say this so many times because they want to look at the possibility of it being Arthur Lee Allen working with Don Chaney. And I should say that I started corresponding somewhat with Mark Hewitt, and we've talked over some ideas about the Zodiac Killer, and he shared one thing with me about Arthur Lee Allen, and that is that, number one, Robert Graysmith was somebody who believed, he genuinely believed that Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac Killer, but he did commit several errors in his research. But he doesn't go down the pathway that this has to be the Zodiac Killer hoax. Instead, what he put forward was that, number one, he didn't have an electronic database to store all the files, so he committed genuine errors when he's like sifting through papers and sorting things, and he committed genuine errors, and we're thinking like shoddy research, shoddy workmanship on the part of Robert Graysmith. And the second one was being under pressure from the publisher. So, and we're talking about W.W. Norton and St. Martin's Press, and it would really be the publisher that would come out in 1986 to repackage and sell his book Zodiac. So that could be a reason for that. But if we're going to look at the possibility of multiple perpetrators, I was quite surprised that they even mentioned this on a mainstream publication. And somebody left a comment once on one of these uploads here on Black Box Online Radio saying the group murder theory is growing. And if we're going to mention that in a Q&A, I think that is somewhat valuable. But I would love to say that, we will get a definitive answer very soon. But I think that this is a mystery that is just going to go on for a little bit longer. How much longer, I'm not sure. But there could be numerous ways in which the case could be solved. But once again, challenge question to you guys. What do you think was the biggest issue in preventing the capture of the Zodiac killer? And as always, you can follow BlackBoxNed88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. If you like this upload, you can hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're welcome to do so. But most importantly, please share some things in the comments section below. Share your ideas. What do you think about the Zodiac killer? What do you think about any of the suspects that we've been talking about? And perhaps there's a suspect that you haven't heard about yet on the channel. You can drop some ideas for requests, but I got to tell you, our topic list is growing, and we will be doing our final segment on Robert Linkletter tomorrow. And if you're listening to this in the future, you can check out our uploads on Robert Linkletter as a Zodiac killer suspect. And that's all for me now. Until next time.